My son's bride called me a vegetable at my son's wedding. Is this drooling thing really your father? Anne shrieked, her $15,000 dress swishing as she pointed at my wheelchair. Get him out of my sight! 200 guests stared. My son, Will, looked mortified. The oxygen tank beside me hissed softly. I didn't flinch, didn't beg, just sat there, letting her words hang in the air like poison. Here's what that beautiful bride didn't know. I'm worth $53 million. The wheelchair? Fake. The oxygen? Theater prop. The trembling hands? $200,000 of Hollywood special effects. I'm Denzel Washington, retired effects artist, and I'd been testing her character for months. She was failing spectacularly. What happened next would make her perfect wedding day crumble like a house of cards. But first, let me tell you how we got here. It started 6 months ago when Will announced his engagement. I was genuinely happy for him. My boy had found love with Anne Hathaway, a healthcare administrator from Beverly Hills. Smart, successful, beautiful. Everything a father could want for his son. Except for one small problem. She thought I was broke. You see, after my wife died 3 years ago, I'd been living simply. Real simply. Studio apartment in Van Nuys, 10-year-old Honda Civic, Walmart clothes. I'd stopped talking about my old Hollywood career, my patents, my investments. Grief does that to you sometimes. Will knew I'd worked in special effects, but he had no idea about the money. The $53 million came from selling my effects company to Disney in 2019. Patents for breakthrough prosthetics technology. Royalties that still rolled in every month. I kept it quiet. Wanted to see who people really were when they thought I had nothing. Anne failed that test immediately. Our first dinner together was at some trendy place in West Hollywood. She kept checking her phone, barely looked at me. When the waiter asked about wine, she said, "Whatever's cheapest. We're paying for Denzel, too." Will looked embarrassed. I said nothing. During dessert, Anne leaned forward with fake concern. "So, Denzel, Will says you're between jobs. Have you considered senior services? There are programs for people in your situation, my situation, like I was some charity case." "I'm managing fine," I said quietly. "Well, we want to help," she continued, her voice dripping with condescension. "Maybe we could find you a nice assisted living place. Nothing fancy, but clean, safe." I watched her carefully. This woman wanted to warehouse me before I even became a problem. The pattern continued for months. At Will's birthday party, Anne seated me at the kids' table. "More appropriate for your level," she whispered. When they went house hunting, she made sure I knew I wasn't welcome. "It's really a place for young professionals," she explained. "You'd feel out of place." At their engagement party, she introduced me to her parents as Will's father. "He's struggling since his wife passed. We're keeping an eye on him." Her mother Meryl looked at me with pity. Her father Brad barely acknowledged my existence. But the real test came when Anne started planning the wedding. "We need to discuss your father," I heard her tell Will through their apartment door. I'd come to drop off a birthday card. "What about him?" Will asked. "He's going to embarrass us." Look at him. Those old clothes, that beaten-down look. My family will think we're poor. Dad's had a rough time since Mom died. That's exactly my point. He looks like he belongs in a nursing home, not at our wedding. Can't you clean him up? Buy him a decent suit? I knocked. The conversation stopped. "Dad!" Will opened the door, flustered. "I didn't know you were coming by." Anne appeared behind him, her smile plastic. "Denzel! How nice. We were just talking about the wedding." "I heard," I said calmly. Her cheeks reddened, but she didn't apologize. Instead, she doubled down. "Well, since you're here, we should discuss logistics. The venue is quite upscale. There's a dress code." She handed me a brochure for Men's Warehouse. "Nothing too expensive. We don't want you to strain your budget." That's when I made my decision. I was going to test her completely. Push her to show her true colors in front of everyone who mattered. If she could treat a grieving widower like garbage when she thought he was poor, what would she do when she thought he was truly helpless? I called my old contacts at Hollywood FX Studios. "I need a favor," I told Marcus, my former partner. "Something big." 2 weeks later, I was transformed. The wheelchair was medical grade, $12,000, with hidden recording equipment built into the armrest. The oxygen tank was theater prop, but perfect replica. The latex prosthetics made my hands shake convincingly. The glycerin drool looked heartbreakingly real. I practiced for hours, slurred speech, confused expressions, the whole performance of a man broken by stroke. Will was devastated when he saw me. "Dad, what happened?" "When did this start?" "Last month," I whispered, my voice carefully modulated to sound weak. "Came on sudden. Doctor says stroke." His physical therapy training kicked in. He wanted to examine me, run tests. I deflected with confusion, made excuses about specialists, gave him just enough medical terminology to seem legitimate without being verifiable. Anne's reaction was everything I'd expected, and worse. The first time she saw me in the wheelchair, she actually recoiled. "Oh my God," she whispered to Will. "How bad is it?" "The doctors aren't sure," Will said, his voice breaking. "He might recover some function, but he can't come to the wedding like this," Anne said immediately. "Look at him. Anne, he's my father. And I understand that, but this is our day. Our perfect day. I've worked 2 years planning this. I can't have that in all our photos. That." She called me that. "Maybe he could stay home," she suggested. "We'll have someone live stream it for him." Will fought for me. I have to give him credit. But Anne was relentless. "If he absolutely must come," she finally conceded, "he stays in the back. No photos, no reception line, and someone needs to watch him constantly." The test was working perfectly, but I had no idea how spectacularly she would fail. The morning of the wedding, Anne called me directly. I almost didn't answer. The phone rang 6 times before I picked up, making sure to sound confused and slow. "Hello? Denzel, it's Anne. We need to talk." Her voice was cold, businesslike. This wasn't a daughter-in-law checking on family. This was damage control. "Oh, Anne. Hello, dear. Listen, I've been thinking about today. About the wedding. And I think it's best if you don't come." I let silence hang for a moment. Let her think I was processing slowly. "But it's Will's wedding." "I know, and we'll make sure you see everything. We'll have someone FaceTime you the whole ceremony. It'll be like you're there. I want to see my son get married. And you will. Just from home. Where you're comfortable. Where you're safe." Safe. The word dripped with false concern. "Denzel, can I be honest with you?" Here it comes, I thought. "You're not, well. And today needs to be perfect. My family is flying in from all over the country. Will's colleagues from the hospital will be there. Important people. I understand. Do you? Because I need you to really understand. This wedding cost us $200,000. Every detail matters. Every moment will be photographed, filmed, remembered forever." She paused, waiting for me to respond. When I didn't, she continued, "I can't have you disrupting things, making scenes, having episodes. I won't make scenes." "You can't promise that." "You're sick, Denzel. Really sick. What if you have another stroke during the ceremony? What if you fall out of your wheelchair? What if you make those sounds?" Those sounds. She meant the occasional slurred word, the breathing I'd been faking. "Anne, please, let me come. I'm trying to protect you here. Save you from embarrassment. Because honestly, the way you look right now, the way you sound, it's heartbreaking. People will stare. They'll whisper. They'll pity you." The cruelty was breathtaking. Even knowing it was an act, even knowing I was manipulating the situation, her words cut deep. "But what will hurt most," she continued, "is that they'll pity Will. They'll look at him and think, 'Poor guy, stuck taking care of that broken old man. Is that what you want for your son on his wedding day?'" I made my voice smaller, more fragile. "No, I don't want that." "Good. Then we're agreed. You'll stay home. I'll have Will call you after the reception." "Wait," I said quickly. What if I promise to stay quiet?" "In the back?" She sighed heavily, dramatically. "Denzel, I don't think you understand how you look right now. Have you seen yourself lately? Really seen yourself?" I ... "You look like death. Your clothes hang off you. That drool situation is disgusting. Your hands shake constantly. You can barely form complete sentences. Each word was a calculated blow. My guests will be horrified. They'll spend the whole ceremony distracted, watching you instead of us. Some of them have never seen anyone in your condition. Condition like I was contagious. And honestly, it's not fair to Will either. He's been stressed about you for weeks, worried sick. Today should be about joy, not this. I could hear her moving around, probably pacing her hotel room. Plus, there's the practical issues. The venue has stairs. The bathrooms aren't fully accessible. What if you need assistance? What if there's an accident? An accident. She was painting scenarios of me soiling myself at her wedding. I've talked to Will about this. He agrees it's for the best. That was a lie. I knew my son. He would never agree to exclude his father. He said that? Of course he did. He's thinking clearly, which is more than I can say for you right now. You're not thinking about what's best for anyone. You're being selfish. Selfish. For wanting to see my only child get married. Look, I'll be direct since you're not getting the hint. You're an embarrassment waiting to happen. A disaster in a wheelchair. And I will not let you ruin the most important day of my life. There it was, her true voice. No more fake concern or medical excuses. Do you understand me, Denzel? You are not welcome at my wedding. I stayed quiet for a long moment, letting her think she'd won. I understand, I whispered finally. Good. I knew you'd see reason eventually. But Anne, what? I'm coming anyway. The silence stretched between us like a wire about to snap. Excuse me? Will is my son. I'm going to watch him get married. Like hell you are. Her mask completely dropped. The sweet, concerned daughter-in-law vanished, replaced by something venomous. If you show up at my wedding looking like that, I will have security remove you. I will make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of selfish, attention-seeking old man you really are. Okay? Okay? That's all you have to say? I'll see you at the wedding, Anne. I hung up. 10 minutes later, my phone exploded with texts. Threats, ultimatums, promises that she would destroy my relationship with Will forever if I dared to show up. I turned off my phone and finished getting ready. The custom wheelchair, the oxygen tank, the perfect prosthetic makeup that had taken 4 hours to apply. I looked in the mirror one last time. The broken old man stared back at me, glycerin drool glistening at the corner of his mouth. But behind those clouded eyes was $53 million in fury, and a plan that was about to change everything. I arrived at the Los Angeles Medical Center wedding venue at exactly 1:45 p.m. The irony wasn't lost on me. Anne had chosen a medical center for her wedding venue. The grand ballroom overlooked the children's hospital, a woman who worked in healthcare, getting married where sick kids fought for their lives, while she called disabled people disgusting. The venue coordinator, a young woman named Sarah, rushed over when she saw my wheelchair. Sir, are you okay? Do you need assistance? I let my head loll slightly, slurred my words just enough. Here for wedding, Will Smith and Anne. Oh, you must be the groom's father. Ms. Hathaway specifically mentioned you might need help. I bet she did. Sarah guided me to the very back row. Not just the back behind a pillar where I'd be completely hidden from the main ceremony. A folding chair had been removed to make space for my wheelchair. Ms. Hathaway thought you'd be more comfortable here, Sarah explained. Quieter, less overwhelming. More comfortable, right. As guests arrived, I watched them carefully. Anne's family filled the front rows, designer clothes, expensive jewelry, practiced smiles. Her father Brad wore a Rolex that cost more than most people's cars. Her mother Meryl clutched a Hermes bag like a shield. Will's side was different. His hospital colleagues, our old neighbors, family friends who remembered my wife. Real people with real jobs and genuine warmth. The contrast was stark. At 2:15, Will appeared at the altar. My son looked handsome in his black tuxedo, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. He kept scanning the crowd, probably looking for me. When our eyes met across the ballroom, his face crumbled with relief and concern. He started to walk toward me, but the wedding coordinator intercepted him. Places, everyone. We're about to begin, Will mouthed. I love you, Dad, from the altar. I nodded slowly, my hand trembling as I wiped fake drool from my chin. That's when Anne made her entrance. $15,000 of Vera Wang silk, diamond tiara that caught the light like stars. She was absolutely stunning, and absolutely cold. As she walked down the aisle, her eyes found me in my hiding spot behind the pillar. For just a moment, her perfect smile faltered. Her jaw tightened. She was furious that I'd come. The ceremony was beautiful. Traditional vows, exchange of rings. Will's voice cracked when he promised to love Anne in sickness and in health. I thought about that phrase. In sickness and in health. Anne had already shown what she thought about sickness. During the kiss, I made my final decision. I'd been on the fence about how far to take this. Part of me hoped she might show some humanity at her own wedding, some small sign that she could love my son enough to accept his disabled father. But watching her avoid looking in my direction for the entire ceremony told me everything I needed to know. She was ashamed of me, disgusted by me, even on what should be the happiest day of her life. My presence, hidden away like a dirty secret, still bothered her. I pulled out my iPhone, careful to keep it low. Opened my banking app. Wells Fargo Private Banking. Account balance, $53,247,891.43. Then I opened my contacts. Found the number I'd memorized weeks ago, National Disability Rights Network, the charity I'd been researching since this whole charade began. Their mission statement was beautiful, ensuring dignity, opportunity, and equal treatment for all people with disabilities. I drafted a wire transfer, $500,000, ready to send with one touch. But first, I wanted to see how much worse Anne could get. I didn't have to wait long. During the photo session, the photographer approached my corner. "Should we get some shots with the father of the groom?" Anne's voice cut across the ballroom like a blade. "No family photos with him. He's not photogenic right now." Not photogenic. That's what she called her new father-in-law. Will started to object, but Anne grabbed his arm. "Honey, look at him. Really look. Do you want those pictures in our album forever?" I watched my son's face, saw him torn between loyalty to his wife and love for his father. "Maybe just one or two," he suggested weakly. "Will, no. I'm sorry, but no, this is our day, our memories. I won't have them ruined. Ruined. My presence would ruin their memories." That settled it. I opened the transfer app again, added another zero to the donation amount, $5 million to disability rights organizations. Then I started recording everything on my phone. Every cruel word, every dismissive gesture, every moment of her disgust. The test was complete. Anne Hathaway had failed spectacularly. Now came the results. The cocktail hour was my window. While guests mingled and sipped champagne, I rolled my wheelchair to the venue's business center. Sarah, the coordinator, helped me navigate. "Just need to check email," I slurred to her. "Son's medical insurance forms." She nodded sympathetically and left me alone. I had exactly 47 minutes before dinner service. First, I uploaded everything to the cloud. 4 hours of hidden camera footage from my wheelchair. Anne's phone call this morning, I'd recorded that too. Perfectly legal in California's one-party consent state. Screenshots of my banking app showing the $53 million inheritance. Then I pulled up the disability rights organizations I'd been researching for months. Not just the National Disability Rights Network, the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, United Spinal Association, Paralyzed Veterans of America, Brain Injury Association. I'd done my homework. These weren't just charities, they were warriors. Legal advocates who fought discrimination cases, public awareness campaigns that went viral. They had platforms, voices, power. I drafted emails to all of them, attached the recordings, explained the situation, promised major donations if they'd help me expose what happened here today. My phone buzzed with responses within minutes. "Mr. Washington, we're appalled by what we've heard. How can we help? This level of ableism needs public exposure. Are you willing to go on record? We have 2.3 million social media followers. This story needs to be told." I smiled. A real smile this time, not the confused grimace I'd been performing. Next, I called Marcus at Hollywood FX Studios. "How's the performance going up?" He asked. "Better than expected. I need you to document the prosthetics breakdown for tonight." "You want the reveal filmed?" "Everything. Medical-grade documentation of every fake element. I want experts explaining how this was done. Make it educational." "Jesus, Denzel, you're really going nuclear. She called me a vegetable, Marcus, in front of 200 people. Said I was disgusting. Say no more. We'll have cameras there in 20 minutes. I hung up and opened my laptop bag. Inside were printed copies of everything: bank statements, the prosthetics invoices $200,000 in itemized expenses, medical consultations with real stroke specialists who'd help me fake symptoms accurately, legal documents showing my inheritance, patents from my special effects innovations, 47 pieces of evidence, one for each minute until showdown. But the most important document was a simple one-page letter. I'd written it 3 weeks ago, sealed it in an envelope, and given it to my lawyer with specific instructions. If anything happened to me, if I died, if I disappeared, if I was mysteriously committed to a facility, this letter would be opened and its contents released to every major news outlet in America. Insurance policy. Because once I stood up from this wheelchair tonight, there was no going back. Anne would be destroyed. Her reputation, her career, her social standing, all of it would crumble. But she'd also be desperate, dangerous. Rich people with ruined lives sometimes did unpredictable things. My phone buzzed with a text from Will. "Dad, where are you?" "They're about to serve dinner." I typed back slowly, maintaining the facade. "Bathroom, be right there." Time to return to the performance. I wheeled back into the ballroom. The lighting had been dimmed for dinner service. Candles flickered on every table. Anne sat at the head table in her ivory dress, laughing at something her father said. She looked radiant, happy, completely unaware that her perfect world was about to implode. I positioned myself at my assigned table, table 12, furthest from the head table, squeezed between Will's elderly aunt and a hospital orderly who barely spoke English. The forgotten table, the unwanted guests. Perfect, because from here I had a clear view of everything. The microphone system for toasts, the photographers capturing every moment, the exit doors in case security tried to remove me, and most importantly, I could see Anne's face clearly. I wanted to watch her expression when the truth hit. Dinner was served at exactly 7 p.m. By 7:15, Anne would make her biggest mistake yet, and by 7:30, everyone in this room would know exactly who they were really dealing with. During the salad course, Will appeared at my table. "Dad, can I talk to you for a minute?" He knelt beside my wheelchair, his voice low and concerned. His physical therapy training was kicking in again. I could see him studying my posture, my hand tremors, the way I held my fork. "How are you feeling?" "You seem different tonight." Different. My son knew me too well. "Tired," I slurred carefully. "Long day." "Your muscle tone looks better. And your grip strength when you shook hands with Aunt Martha, that was surprisingly firm for someone with your supposed deficits." Will wasn't just my son. He was a licensed physical therapist with 8 years of stroke rehabilitation experience. He'd worked with hundreds of patients, exactly like the character I was playing, and he was starting to see cracks in my performance. "Dad, I've been thinking. Your symptoms don't quite match your supposed diagnosis. The speech patterns are inconsistent. Your fine motor control is too preserved for someone with the brain damage you described." I let my eyes wander slightly, playing confused. "Don't understand. And another thing, you said you had the stroke last month, but you're not on any visible medications. No blood thinners, no anti-seizure drugs. Your oxygen levels seem fine without the tank." He was good. Too good. "Maybe we should get you examined by one of my colleagues tomorrow. Dr. Rodriguez specializes in—" "Will!" Anne's voice cut across the ballroom. "What are you doing over there?" She approached our table, her wedding dress rustling with each step. Her smile was bright for the cameras, but her eyes were ice cold. "Just checking on Dad," Will said, standing up. "Well, stop fussing over him. It's our wedding day, not a medical conference." She grabbed Will's arm possessively. "People are starting to notice." That's when I saw him. At the bar, nursing a scotch and watching everything with sharp eyes, stood a man I recognized from Anne's engagement photos. Her Uncle Richard, Dr. Richard Hathaway, neurologist at Cedars-Sinai. Anne had mentioned him before. "Uncle Rich is the smartest man in our family. He can spot a faker from across the room." Dr. Hathaway was studying me intently, not with pity or disgust like the other guests, but with professional curiosity. He'd been watching Will's examination, probably drawing his own conclusions. Our eyes met across the room. He raised his glass slightly, not in toast, but in acknowledgement. He knew. Maybe not everything, but enough to suspect that something wasn't right with the drooling man in the wheelchair. "Will, seriously," Anne continued, her voice getting sharper, You're embarrassing us. Everyone's staring. I'm just concerned about... About what? He's fine. He's here, isn't he? Against my better judgment, I might add. That comment made Will stiffen. And he's my father. And he's ruining our reception with this whole display. Look around. People can barely eat with him making those sounds. I wasn't making any sounds, but truth had never been Anne's strong suit. Dr. Hathaway moved closer, positioning himself within earshot. Maybe, Will said carefully, you could show a little more compassion. Compassion? Anne's mask slipped slightly. I've shown plenty of compassion. I let him come, didn't I? Even though he looks like death and sounds like a broken record player. Anne? No, Will. I'm done pretending this is normal. Your father is disturbing our guests. Dr. Hathaway was close enough now to hear everything. His expression darkened with each cruel word from his niece. Perfect timing, because what Anne said next would seal her fate forever. Anne's voice carried across the ballroom as dinner plates were cleared. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention... She stood at the head table, champagne glass raised, microphone in hand. The photographer positioned himself for the perfect shot. Will and I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Your love and support mean the world to us. Polite applause rippled through the crowd. I watched from my corner table, oxygen tank hissing softly beside me. Before we begin the official toasts, I need to address something that's been challenging for us. My blood went cold. She was going off script. Many of you have noticed Will's father, Denzel, in his wheelchair tonight. What you might not know is that he's been struggling since his stroke last month. 200 pairs of eyes turned toward me. I slumped lower in my chair, playing the part of the embarrassed invalid. We debated whether he should come tonight. His condition is unpredictable, but Will insisted his father be here, and I support my husband completely. The lie rolled off her tongue like silk. However, I think it's important for everyone to understand that Denzel isn't quite himself anymore. The stroke affected his cognitive abilities. Sometimes he gets confused. Sometimes he makes noises he can't control. Dr. Hathaway moved closer to my table, his medical training clearly triggered by his niece's public diagnosis. So, if you see him struggling, please don't be alarmed. He's receiving excellent care, and we're exploring residential options. That might be better suited to his needs. Residential options. She was publicly discussing putting me in a nursing home. I just wanted everyone to know so there wouldn't be any uncomfortable moments during our celebration. She raised her glass again. To family in all its forms. The toast was hollow, patronizing, a masterclass in public humiliation disguised as compassion. But what happened next was perfect. As Anne sat down, pleased with her performance, a woman at table 6 stood up. I recognized her. Dr. Patricia Williams, one of Will's colleagues from the rehabilitation hospital. Excuse me, Dr. Williams called out, her voice carrying authority. I'm a neurologist, and I couldn't help but notice some inconsistencies in what you've described. The ballroom went quiet. Anne's smile froze. I've been observing Mr. Washington throughout the evening, and his presentation doesn't match typical post-stroke symptoms. His eye tracking is too coordinated. His posture control is remarkably preserved, and his oxygen saturation appears normal without supplementation. Dr. Hathaway stepped forward now, joining his colleague. I agree with Dr. Williams. I'm also a neurologist, and frankly, Anne, your description of your father-in-law's condition doesn't align with what I'm observing clinically. Anne's face flushed red. I don't think this is appropriate. What's not appropriate, Dr. Williams interrupted, is making public medical statements about someone without proper evaluation. Will stood up, confused. What are you saying? I'm saying, Dr. Hathaway said carefully, that either your father's recovery has been miraculous, or there's something else going on here. The room was electric with tension. Guests whispered among themselves. Phones came out. People were recording. Anne panicked. This is ridiculous. Look at him. He's obviously disabled. He can barely speak. He's drooling all over himself. She pointed directly at me, her composure completely shattered. I mean, just look at the man. He's a vegetable. A drooling, pathetic old vegetable who can't even feed himself. The words echoed through the ballroom sound system. Vegetable. She'd said it again, amplified for everyone to hear. But this time she'd said it in front of 2 neurologists, a physical therapist, and 200 witnesses. This time it was recorded on dozens of phones. This time there was no taking it back. Dr. Hathaway's face went white with horror. "Anne Marie Hathaway," he said, using her full name like a disappointed parent. "How dare you speak about any human being that way? Uncle Rich, you don't understand? I understand perfectly. And so does everyone else in this room." He turned to address the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you've just witnessed is unconscionable. No person, disabled or otherwise, deserves to be spoken about like this." The ballroom erupted in murmurs of agreement. Guests were visibly uncomfortable. Some were already heading for the exits. Anne looked around desperately, realizing she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. That's when I decided it was time to stand up. I reached down and turned off the oxygen tank. The hissing stopped. The ballroom went dead silent. Slowly, deliberately, I removed the nasal cannula, set it aside like discarded theater props. Then I gripped the armrests of my wheelchair and stood up. 200 people gasped simultaneously. Anne's champagne glass shattered on the marble floor. "Good evening, everyone," I said, my voice clear and strong. "I'm Denzel Washington, and I have something to tell you about your beautiful bride." I walked to the microphone at the head table. My steps were steady, confident. The trembling hands were gone. The slurred speech had vanished. Anne backed away from me like I was a ghost. "That's impossible," she whispered. "You can't. You were the stroke. There was no stroke, Anne. There never was." I adjusted the microphone, looking out at the stunned faces. "For the past 6 months, I've been conducting an experiment, testing the character of the woman who wanted to marry my son." Dr. Hathaway nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. "The wheelchair cost $12,000. The oxygen equipment was rented from a medical supply company. The prosthetics, the trembling hands, the drool effects cost me exactly $200,000 from Hollywood FX Studios." I pulled out my phone, held it up. "I recorded everything. Every cruel comment, every dismissive gesture, every moment you treated a supposedly disabled man like garbage." Anne's face cycled through emotions: confusion, horror, rage, panic. "You're lying," she said desperately. "This is some kind of trick. You were sick. I saw you. You saw what you wanted to see. A burden, an embarrassment. Someone you could push aside and forget about." I touched my phone screen. Anne's voice filled the ballroom through the sound system. "He looks like death. Your clothes hang off you. That drool situation is disgusting. You look like you belong in a nursing home, not at our wedding." Her own words, crystal clear, amplified for everyone to hear. Guests began standing up, some heading for the exits in disgust. Others stayed, transfixed by the unfolding disaster. "You called me a vegetable," I continued, "multiple times. You said I was disgusting. You tried to ban me from my own son's wedding." Will stood frozen at the head table, his face a mask of shock and betrayal. "But here's what you didn't know, Anne. Here's the part that makes this really interesting." I pulled out a folded document from my jacket pocket. "I'm worth $53 million. The number hit the room like a bomb. $53,247,891, to be exact. Inheritance from selling my special effects company to Disney. Patents on breakthrough prosthetics technology. Investments, real estate, royalties." I held up my phone, showing the Wells Fargo banking app. All of it was going to Will and his future family. A trust fund I'd been planning to announce tonight as my wedding gift. Anne's legs nearly gave out. She grabbed the table for support. "Was going to Will," I repeated. Past tense. I opened my laptop on the head table, connected it to the venue's projection system. My banking interface appeared on screens throughout the ballroom. Because 30 minutes ago, I made some different arrangements. With everyone watching, I navigated to the wire transfer section. $5 million to the National Disability Rights Network, $2 million to the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, $1 million each to United Spinal Association, Paralyzed Veterans of America, and the Brain Injury Association. I hit execute on each transfer. "That's $10 million, Anne. Gone to organizations that fight for the dignity of people you called vegetables." The room erupted in gasps and whispers. "The remaining $43 million will stay in a trust fund, but with new conditions. Will gets access only if he divorces you within 90 days. If he stays married to someone who treats his disabled people like garbage, the money goes to charity too." Will found his voice finally. "Dad, I don't understand. Why would you do this? Test Anne like this? I looked at my son with genuine love and sadness, because I needed to know who she really was. When she thought I was poor, she treated me like trash. When she thought I was disabled, she treated me like I wasn't even human. I turned back to Anne. You work in healthcare administration. You're supposed to advocate for patients. Instead, you called one a vegetable at your own wedding. Anne was crying now, mascara streaming down her cheeks. I didn't mean it. I was stressed. The wedding, the pressure, you meant every word. And now 200 people heard exactly what you think of disabled individuals. Dr. Hathaway stepped forward. Anne, I'm ashamed to call you family. What I witnessed tonight goes against everything we stand for as medical professionals. Uncle Rich, please. No. You've shown your true character, and it's ugly. I pulled up one more screen on my laptop. There's something else you should know, Anne. Remember when you chose this venue, the Los Angeles Medical Center? You thought it was just pretty. I gestured toward the windows overlooking the children's hospital. This venue donates its profits to pediatric care. Sick children, disabled children, children you would probably call vegetables too. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. And the final twist? I've been recording this entire evening. The footage goes live on social media in exactly 10 minutes, along with a complete breakdown of the prosthetics deception. The disability rights organizations I just donated to have already agreed to share it with their millions of followers. Anne's phone began buzzing frantically. Her friends, her colleagues, her social media followers, they were already seeing the clips people had posted during dinner. Your career in healthcare is over, Anne. No hospital will hire someone who calls patients vegetables. No medical facility will trust you with vulnerable populations. She collapsed into a chair, the fight completely drained out of her. $43 million, I said to Will. 90 days to decide what matters more, money or staying married to someone who failed the most basic test of human decency. I looked around the ballroom one final time. The bar remains open. Enjoy your evening, everyone. I walked toward the exit, my steps strong and sure. Behind me, Anne Hathaway sobbed into her $15,000 dress, while 200 wedding guests filed out in stunned silence. The test was complete, and she had failed spectacularly. The ballroom emptied in 15 minutes. Not gradually, not politely, like a fire evacuation. I stood in the lobby, still in my fake medical costume, but walking normally now, watching the exodus. Dr. Hathaway approached me first. Mr. Washington, what you did tonight, I've never seen anything like it, good or bad. Necessary, he said firmly. Anne's always had cruel tendencies, but this, he shook his head. I work with stroke patients daily. What she said about you, what she believed about disabled people, it's everything wrong with our healthcare system. Dr. Williams joined us, her phone in hand. The video's already going viral. #VegetableGroom is trending on Twitter. 3 million views in the last hour. My phone buzzed constantly. News outlets, talk shows, documentary filmmakers. The story was spreading faster than wildfire. Mr. Washington, a young reporter from Channel 7 approached. Could we get a statement? Before I could answer, Anne burst through the ballroom doors. Her wedding dress was stained, her makeup destroyed, her hair falling from its elaborate updo. You destroyed me, she screamed across the lobby. You ruined my life. Hotel security stepped forward, but I waved them off. You destroyed yourself, Anne. I just gave you rope. $53 million. You had $53 million, and you let me think you were poor. I wanted to see who you really were. Who I really was? Her voice echoed off the marble walls. I was trying to protect my wedding, my reputation, my family, by calling disabled people vegetables. That was private. Between us. Nothing's private when you're cruel to vulnerable people, Anne. The disability community has been fighting this attitude for decades. Tonight you gave them the perfect example of why their work matters. She pulled out her phone desperately. It's not stopping. The comments, the shares, they found my LinkedIn, my work email. Someone posted my hospital's phone number. I felt no satisfaction watching her panic. Just sad recognition of consequences meeting actions. Los Angeles Memorial already called, she continued, tears streaming. I'm suspended pending investigation. The medical board is reviewing my license. Dr. Hathaway stepped closer to his niece. Anne, you called a patient a vegetable. At your own wedding, on camera. What did you expect would happen? He's not a real patient. It was fake. But your attitude toward disability was real, Dr. Williams said coldly. And now every disabled person in America knows exactly what you think of them. Will finally emerged from the ballroom, looking shell-shocked. He'd removed his bow tie and jacket. His eyes were red. "Dad, can we talk?" I nodded. We walked to a quiet corner of the lobby. "I don't understand any of this. The money, the test, the deception. Your wife failed a basic humanity test, son. But why this way? Why humiliate her publicly?" I looked at my boy, 31 years old, good heart, but still naive about the world. "Because private cruelty toward disabled people happens every day. In hospitals, in nursing homes, in families. It stays hidden because victims often can't speak up for themselves." "So you decided to speak for them?" "I decided to show what that cruelty looks like when it's exposed to light." Will was quiet for a long moment. "The money? The inheritance? You'd really give it all away?" "Son, I've got more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. But dignity? Respect for vulnerable people? That's priceless. And if I stay married to Anne, then you stay married to someone who thinks disabled people are vegetables. And $43 million goes to organizations that fight that attitude." He looked back toward Anne, who was still arguing with reporters and security. 90 days? 90 days. My phone rang. Marcus from Hollywood FX Studios. "Denzel, the breakdown video is ready. Medical experts explaining every prosthetic, every effect. Educational content about disability representation in media. Perfect timing. And the disability rights organizations want to interview you. This is becoming a movement." I looked around the lobby, at the reporters, the cameras, the social media posts, spreading my story across the internet. Tonight had been about testing one person. Tomorrow would be about changing how society treats millions. 3 months later, I sat in my real office, not the fake studio apartment I'd been pretending to live in, reading the morning news. Will had filed for divorce on day 87. The settlement was clean. Anne got nothing except her legal fees and a permanent reminder that the internet never forgets. The hashtag vegetable groom still trended weekly, usually attached to news stories about disability rights victories. She'd lost her job, her medical license, and most of her friends. Last I heard, she was working retail in Phoenix under her maiden name. I felt no joy about that, just the quiet satisfaction of consequences, fairly distributed. The $43 million stayed in Will's trust fund. He'd earned it by choosing human decency over social status. Not a difficult choice, really, but apparently harder than most people think. My phone buzzed. Text from Will. "Dad, can you meet me for lunch?" "I have news. We met at our old favorite diner in Van Nuys." He looked lighter somehow, happier. "I got engaged," he said, sliding a photo across the table. Beautiful woman, warm smile, scrubs uniform. "Dr. Sarah Martinez. She works in pediatric rehabilitation." "Where did you meet?" "At one of your speaking events, actually. She was the physical therapist who worked with kids recovering from brain injuries." I smiled. My speaking tour had become a full-time job. Universities, medical conferences, disability rights organizations. The story of the wedding night had opened doors I'd never expected. "She knows about the money?" I asked, and I told her on our second date. You know what she said? "What?" "That any man whose father would spend $200,000 testing his fiancé's character probably learned something important about love." Smart woman. "She wants to meet you properly, without the prosthetics this time. I'd like that." The waitress brought our food. I watched Will eat, this good man I'd raised who'd chosen correctly when it mattered most. "The foundation wants to offer you a permanent position," he said. "Director of Public Awareness. 6-figure salary. Full benefits. Travel budget for speaking. The Denzel Washington Foundation for Disability Dignity. Started with $10 million of my money. Now funded by donations from people who'd seen the wedding video and wanted to support the cause. I'm considering it." "Dad, you've spoken to over 50,000 people in the last 3 months. Medical students, hospital administrators, disability advocates. You're changing minds." True. The wedding night had become a case study in medical ethics courses. The prosthetics breakdown video was shown in film schools as an example of effects artistry used for social good. Most importantly, hospitals were implementing new policies about how staff discuss patients with disabilities. "There's something else," Will continued. Sarah and I want you to walk her down the aisle. Her father passed last year. I looked at my son, 31 years old, choosing love based on character instead of appearances, making his father proud in ways that had nothing to do with money. I'd be honored. No prosthetics this time? No prosthetics? No tests? Just a father walking his future daughter-in-law toward happiness. Outside the diner window, I watched people going about their lives. Some in wheelchairs, some using walkers, some with invisible disabilities that others might never notice. All of them deserving dignity. All of them deserving better than being called vegetables. The test was over. The real work had just begun.